60 years ago, a psychologist at Yale University ran a disturbing experiment. He brought ordinary people into a lab and told them they were part of a study on memory and learning. Their job was simple: read word pairs to a stranger in the next room. And if the stranger got the answer wrong, deliver an electric shock. Each wrong answer, the voltage went up. The stranger wasn't real, the shocks weren't real, but the people sitting at that machine didn't know that. When they turned to the man running the experiment, the man in the grey lab coat, and said they wanted to stop, he had 4 responses. Please continue. The experiment requires you to continue. It is absolutely essential that you continue. You have no other choice but to continue. Now, the participants did have a choice. They could have refused at any point. There was no obligation to follow the man's request. But the experiment revealed how effective communication can override even our moral judgment. 65% of participants delivered what they believed was a potentially lethal shock to a stranger. Think about what was actually happening in that room. The man in the lab coat wasn't threatening anyone. He wasn't raising his voice. He wasn't particularly persuasive in his words, because his words, taken at face value, were barely an argument at all. What he had was stillness, certainty, the slow, unhurried pace of someone who already knew how this would end. He stood completely still while the person across from him unraveled, and that stillness was what did the work. Stanley Milgram ran variations of this experiment. He moved the man in the lab coat to a different room, issuing the same instructions by phone. Compliance dropped immediately. Same words, different delivery location, completely different outcome. The words were never the point. Chase Hughes spent 20 years in US military intelligence, training operatives to read and direct human behavior at the highest possible stakes. In his behavior ops manual, he makes an argument that most leadership training ignores entirely. He calls them authority tripwires, the 5 nonverbal signals humans unconsciously use to assign credibility to another person: movement, appearance, confidence, connection, internal feeling. Every single one is pre-linguistic. None of them involve what you say. Renowned professor of psychology, Professor Albert Mehrabian from the University of California, put this in numbers. He said when building rapport on an emotional level, 55% comes from body language, 38% from vocal tone, and only 7% from words. Your audience is not waiting to hear what you have to say. They've already decided whether to trust you or not. So here's the exercise. Record yourself speaking to camera, whatever situation you're preparing for: presentation, meeting, conversation. Watch it twice. The first time, sound off. Just watch your body, your posture, your hands, your gestures, the speed of your gestures. What is your body saying when your words aren't there to cover for it? Second time, don't look at the screen, just listen. Does your voice drive through to the end of sentences, or does it trail off and ask for permission? Does your pace signal certainty, or is it running slightly ahead of your thoughts? Most people hate this exercise. That discomfort is the point. Communication is power. Delivered with enough authority, a request that should sound completely unreasonable becomes the only option people feel they have.